You ever hear people say, eat your vegetables, they're good for you? It's something we've all been told since childhood, and sure, most of the time, that advice is right. But here's the thing, just because something is labeled healthy doesn't mean it's healthy for everyone. As we age, our bodies change. What worked for us in our younger years doesn't always sit right with us anymore. And that includes certain vegetables. Some vegetables might be packed with nutrients, but they can also trigger digestion issues, spike blood sugar, or even cause inflammation in seniors. That's why today, we're going to talk about 7 vegetables that older adults should think twice about. Some of these might surprise you, but by the end of this, you'll have a better understanding of what to keep on your plate and what to push aside. Now, before you go tossing everything in your fridge, let's take a moment to understand why certain foods can turn against us as we age. Our metabolism slows down. Our digestion isn't as strong. Our kidneys and liver don't filter toxins as efficiently as they used to. And let's not forget about conditions like arthritis, high blood pressure, and diabetes that creep up over time. The foods we eat either help or harm us. It's that simple. Let's start with a vegetable that might shock you: tomatoes. Yes, tomatoes are packed with vitamin C and antioxidants, and they're great for some people. But for seniors? Not always. If you've ever noticed joint pain or acid reflux after eating tomato-based dishes, that's not a coincidence. Tomatoes are high in acid, and that acidity can trigger heartburn and worsen conditions like GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. If you already deal with arthritis or joint inflammation, tomatoes might be making things worse. You see, tomatoes belong to the nightshade family, which contains a compound called solanine. Some experts believe solanine can aggravate inflammation, particularly in those with arthritis. So, if you wake up with stiff joints or feel achy after a big bowl of tomato soup, you might want to cut back. But tomatoes aren't the only nightshade vegetable that can cause trouble. Let's talk about potatoes. Potatoes are a staple in many diets. They're comforting, filling, and easy to cook. But they're also loaded with starch, which quickly turns into sugar in the body. For seniors managing diabetes or trying to keep their blood sugar stable, too many potatoes can be a problem. White potatoes, in particular, have a high glycemic index, meaning they cause blood sugar spikes. Plus, they contain the same solanine that's in tomatoes, which can contribute to inflammation and joint pain. If you love potatoes, switching to sweet potatoes might be a better option. They're lower on the glycemic index and packed with fiber and vitamins. Now, let's move on to a vegetable that's often praised for being a superfood, but can actually be a hidden danger for seniors: kale. Yes, kale. The same leafy green that's in every health-conscious person's smoothie. While it's true that kale is full of nutrients, it can also be risky for older adults who are on blood thinners like warfarin. That's because kale is extremely high in vitamin K, which plays a role in blood clotting. If you're taking medication to prevent blood clots, too much vitamin K can interfere with that and create complications. On top of that, kale can also contribute to kidney stone formation due to its high oxalate content. If you've ever had kidney stones before, you know how painful they can be. So while kale might be great for some, it's not always the best choice for seniors, especially those on medication. Speaking of leafy greens, another one that can cause trouble is spinach. Spinach, like kale, is high in oxalates, which means it can contribute to kidney stones. But that's not the only concern. Spinach is also high in purines, which the body breaks down into uric acid. Too much uric acid can lead to gout, a painful form of arthritis that causes sudden, severe joint pain. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with a throbbing big toe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some seniors are more prone to gout, and if that's you, spinach might not be your best friend. Now let's switch gears and talk about a vegetable that might seem harmless but can cause major digestion problems: cabbage. Cabbage is often recommended for gut health, and for some people it's great. But for seniors, it can cause bloating, gas, and even worsen digestive conditions like irritable bowel syndrome. IBS. The reason? Cabbage is part of the cruciferous vegetable family, which contains complex sugars that are tough to break down. As we age, our digestive enzymes decrease, making it harder to properly digest foods like cabbage. This can lead to uncomfortable bloating and stomach cramps, especially if you already have a sensitive gut. If you love cabbage but struggle with digestion, try cooking it instead of eating it raw. It's easier on the stomach that way. We're not done yet. Another vegetable that can cause unexpected issues is bell peppers. Bell peppers are colorful, crunchy, and loaded with vitamin C, but they also belong to the nightshade family, just like tomatoes and potatoes. That means they contain solanine, which, again, can worsen inflammation and joint pain for some seniors. If you have arthritis or experience stiffness after eating peppers, it might be worth testing how your body reacts when you cut them out for a while. And while we're at it, bell peppers can sometimes trigger digestive discomfort, especially for those with sensitive stomachs. The tough skin and seeds can be hard to break down, leading to bloating or acid reflux. And finally, let's talk about eggplant. Eggplant is another nightshade vegetable that contains solanine, which can contribute to inflammation. But beyond that, eggplant also contains histamines, which can trigger allergic reactions in some people. If you've ever eaten eggplant and noticed itching, swelling, or a strange reaction, histamines could be the culprit. Plus, just like bell peppers, eggplant can be difficult for some people to digest, leading to bloating and stomach discomfort. Now I know what you might be thinking, so what am I supposed to eat? The point of this isn't to scare you away from vegetables entirely. The key is understanding how your body reacts to certain foods and making adjustments. If you love tomatoes but they cause acid reflux, maybe try reducing your intake. If potatoes make your blood sugar spike, switch to sweet potatoes. If you're on blood thinners, be mindful of how much kale you eat. It's not about completely eliminating foods. It's about knowing what works for your body and what doesn't. The goal isn't just to live longer, it's to live well. And that starts with taking care of what goes into your body. Because at the end of the day, food is either medicine or poison. The choice is yours. Now that we've talked about which vegetables seniors should avoid, let's take a closer look at why these foods can be problematic. It's not just about avoiding discomfort. It's about understanding the way our bodies change as we age. See, when we're younger, our metabolism is like a well-oiled machine. Our digestion is stronger, our organs function at full capacity, and our immune system fights off issues before we even notice them. But as we age, that machine starts to slow down. The way our bodies process food, absorb nutrients, and eliminate waste isn't what it used to be. And if we're not careful, certain foods, yes, even vegetables, can do more harm than good. Let's talk about digestion first. For many seniors, digestive issues become a daily struggle. Whether it's bloating, acid reflux, constipation, or IBS, the gut doesn't work as smoothly as it once did. And a lot of this comes down to digestive enzymes. These enzymes help break down food so the body can absorb nutrients properly. But as we age, enzyme production decreases. That means foods that were once easy to digest, like cabbage or bell peppers, suddenly feel like a rock sitting in your stomach. And then, there's the issue of stomach acid. You might think too much stomach acid is the problem, but for most seniors, it's actually too little. A lack of stomach acid means food sits in the stomach longer than it should, leading to bloating, gas, and acid reflux. That's why tomatoes and other acidic foods can be a nightmare for seniors. They trigger reflux not because of too much acid, but because the stomach isn't processing food efficiently. But digestion is just one part of the problem. Another major issue is inflammation. If you deal with joint pain, arthritis, or general stiffness, you already know how inflammation affects the body. But what you might not realize is that certain vegetables can make it worse. The nightshade family, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, and bell peppers, contains compounds that some studies suggest worsen inflammation. Now, not everyone reacts the same way, but if you notice more stiffness after eating these foods, your body might be telling you something. Inflammation isn't just about joint pain, though. It's also linked to heart disease, diabetes, and even memory issues. The more we can do to reduce inflammation through diet, the better we feel. That's why cutting back on inflammatory foods, including certain vegetables, can make a huge difference. And then there's blood sugar. If you have diabetes or prediabetes, you already know how important it is to manage blood sugar levels. But what many people don't realize is that certain vegetables, like white potatoes, act just like sugar in the body. They might not taste sweet, but they break down quickly into glucose, leading to blood sugar spikes. Now, does that mean you should never eat potatoes again? Not necessarily, but it does mean you should be mindful of how much you're eating and how it affects your blood sugar. If you notice a spike after a meal, it might be time to swap out white potatoes for a lower glycemic alternative, like sweet potatoes or cauliflower. And we haven't even touched on kidney health yet. For seniors with kidney issues, whether it's kidney disease, stones, or general decline in function, some vegetables can be a hidden danger. High oxalate vegetables like spinach, kale, and even beets can contribute to kidney stone formation. And if your kidneys aren't filtering waste as well as they used to, too much of these foods can put extra strain on them. It's easy to think, well, I've been eating these foods my whole life, so why stop now? But the truth is, what worked for us in our 30s or 40s doesn't always work in our 60s or 70s. The body changes, and our diet should change with it. So what's the solution? It's not about avoiding vegetables altogether. That would be ridiculous. The goal is to be more selective about what we eat and how much of it we consume. If a certain vegetable is causing discomfort, inflammation, or blood sugar spikes, it might be worth cutting back or replacing it with a better option. For example, instead of white potatoes, try cauliflower or sweet potatoes. Instead of raw cabbage, try fermented cabbage, like sauerkraut, or cooked cabbage, which is easier to digest. Instead of raw spinach, try other leafy greens like romaine lettuce or arugula, which are lower in oxalates. Instead of tomatoes, try cooked carrots or pumpkin for a similar texture without the acidity. Instead of bell peppers, try zucchini, which is much gentler on digestion. At the end of the day, our diet should work for us, not against us. If you're constantly feeling sluggish, bloated, or achy after meals, it's worth paying attention to what's on your plate. The goal isn't just to live longer, it's to feel good while we do it. Now, I know change isn't always easy. We get used to certain foods, certain habits, and the thought of giving up something we love can be frustrating. But here's the thing. Your body is already speaking to you. If you're dealing with pain, discomfort, or health issues, it might be time to listen, because when it comes down to it, the most valuable wisdom of old age is knowing when to let go. We spend our younger years thinking we can power through anything: bad food, bad habits, bad decisions. But in our later years, we realize that real strength isn't in pushing through pain, it's in choosing what's best for us, and that includes what we eat. So take a moment and think about it. What foods make you feel good? What foods make you feel worse? If something's not serving you anymore, maybe it's time to let it go. Because your health, your well-being, is worth more than a plate of food. Change is never easy, especially when it comes to food. Most of us have been eating the same way for decades. We've built habits around our meals, comfort foods, traditions, favorite recipes, and for most of our lives, we never gave it a second thought. If it tasted good, we ate it. If it filled us up, that was good enough. But now, things feel different. One day, that favorite dish doesn't sit right. That food you used to enjoy starts making you feel bloated, tired, or just off. Maybe it's heartburn. Maybe it's stiff joints in the morning. Maybe your blood sugar readings aren't where they used to be. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's like your body is suddenly rejecting the things it once welcomed. Here's the truth. Your body is changing, and that's not a bad thing. See, as we age, our bodies become more honest with us. When we were younger, we could get away with eating just about anything. The body could handle the extra sugar, the greasy meals, the heavy portions. It had the strength and energy to keep pushing forward. But now it tells you the truth. And the truth is, not every food that was once harmless is still working for you. So, how do we adjust? It starts with paying attention. Most people think that eating healthy means following some strict diet, cutting out all the foods they love, and living on bland meals. That's not the case. Eating well isn't about restriction. It's about wisdom. It's about learning how your body responds to food and making choices based on that. For example, let's talk about acidic foods like tomatoes. If you've been struggling with acid reflux, heartburn, or GERD, your body might be telling you that tomatoes aren't your friend anymore. That doesn't mean you have to say goodbye to every tomato-based dish forever, but it does mean you should listen. Maybe you switch to lower acid tomatoes. Maybe you eat them in moderation instead of daily. Maybe you pair them with foods that balance out the acidity. Small adjustments can make a big difference, or take potatoes and blood sugar. If you notice your energy crashing after a plate of mashed potatoes, that's a sign your body isn't handling starches the way it used to. Instead of cutting out potatoes completely, try swapping them for lower glycemic alternatives like sweet potatoes or cauliflower mash. It's not about giving up, it's about making better choices that work for your body now. And what about joint pain and inflammation? Aches and stiffness after meals aren't just getting older. They're a sign that something in your diet might be fueling inflammation. Nightshade vegetables, like bell peppers, eggplant, and tomatoes, are known to trigger inflammation in some people, especially those with arthritis. If that sounds like you, it's worth testing how you feel when you cut back on those foods. The key is to experiment. Try removing one of these foods from your diet for a few weeks and see what happens. Do you feel better? Do your joints hurt less? Is your digestion smoother? Then you've got your answer. If you don't notice a change, then maybe that food isn't a problem for you. The only way to know is to listen to your body instead of blindly following diet rules. Now, let's talk about a food that many people assume is healthy, but can actually be a hidden problem. For seniors, raw greens like kale and spinach. We've been told for years that leafy greens are the key to good health, and in many ways, they are. But for seniors, especially those on blood thinners, too much vitamin K can interfere with medication. Warfarin and other blood thinners work by preventing dangerous clots, but vitamin K plays a big role in blood clotting. If you're eating large amounts of high vitamin K greens like kale, spinach, or Swiss chard, it could affect how well your medication works. That doesn't mean you have to cut them out completely, but balance is key. And let's not forget oxalates. If you've ever had kidney stones, you know how painful they can be. And one of the biggest dietary culprits? Oxalate-rich vegetables, like spinach and beets. These foods can contribute to stone formation, especially if you're not drinking enough water to flush out excess minerals. So, does that mean you should never eat spinach again? No. But if you've had kidney stones before, you might want to opt for lower oxalate greens like romaine lettuce or bok choy instead. The problem isn't vegetables themselves, it's choosing the right ones for your body. And while we're on the topic of digestive health, let's talk about something that a lot of seniors struggle with, but don't talk about enough: bloating and gas. Certain vegetables, like cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, are known to cause digestive discomfort. Why? Because they contain complex sugars that are tough to break down. When digestion slows with age, these foods can ferment in the gut, causing gas, bloating, and discomfort. If you've noticed that these foods don't sit well with you anymore, try cooking them instead of eating them raw. Steamed or roasted vegetables are much easier to digest than raw ones. Or try reducing portion sizes. Sometimes it's not about the food itself, but how much of it you're eating. So, the next time you sit down for a meal, ask yourself one Simple question. Is this helping me feel my best? And if the answer is no, maybe it's time to make a change. Not because you have to, not because someone told you to, but because you owe it to yourself.